Yeah, we are already having a good time over here. I just want to say thank you. Welcome to another beautiful Thursday, where we're about to start some trouble. We want to disrupt the norm. We want to say it is selfish season for all women, but especially for Black women. And we're going to get into the details with a young lady that set me free. Okay. If you don't know Mimi, she was Mimi Slow Travel up until last month.
Yep.
If you are not subscribed to her channel, Mimi is going to make sure under the description of her name that she puts child free with Mimi. Y'all go over there. The video she posted, I was proud. I see, all of my girls in the chat right now. Tasha Journeys, um, Dr. Linda, y'all know I have subscribed to y'all's channel.
Don't forget Nicole.
Oh,
Yes.
and hey, Nicole LaShawn, I'm telling you, when I subscribe to a channel, I know when you post stuff. And so it came up and I was like, what's Mimi talking about? Things about to change. Okay, what's going on? If you are ready to be set free, today's conversation is your conversation. So I, as a Gen Xer, selfish is a negative that we have fought. We are not selfish. That is something that displaces you from community and your focus. But Mimi's here to set the record straight and to say this is not just for Gen Z, millennials, baby, everybody can be set free. So, Mimi, why don't you introduce yourself and your rebranded channel?
All right. Okay. Wow. This sounds like it's about to be an exciting conversation. So, I'm Mimi, and as Dee said, my channel is Mimi. I was about to say Mimi Slow Travel. See what I'm doing? Child free with Mimi. It started out focusing on slow travel because I'm planning to start traveling long term in June this year, and I just knew that was going to be the content that I was going to do. And then I realized, no, it was not. So I think the message is greater for me when it comes to having these conversations about being child free. And like I said, I even include empty nesters because, like Dee said, there was this, everyone's been trying to outrun certain labels, right? Including selfish. And
Mhm.
me, when I saw selfish, I was like, oh, like it just hits you. It hits you. And that's, because of conditioning, whatever you want to call it. But I think a lot of women have been put into these boxes and doing what they thought they should do instead of living lives that they know they desire and enjoy. And so, yeah,
Mhm.
I want to bring us all in on this conversation because I think we can all benefit from it. So that's what my channel is for. I want to share like all the things. I don't want to look like I have it all together. I promise you, I do not, as you will see, because I will share the good, the bad, and the ugly, where I'm growing, where I'm planning to improve. But I just want it to be a place where we can have these conversations openly. So, yeah, that's who I am. I'm not good at introductions. So tell me if there's something I missed that you want me to add.
So where are you on the socials, Mimi?
Ooh, I'm not very good at social. So I'm on Facebook in the Exodus Summit group, but I'm not active really. I did create. Oh yeah, I created a community to go along with this channel, and it's on Facebook. It's completely free, but it's an extension of this because I realized that when you're on these very public facing platforms, there are certain things you're not comfortable saying because you don't want to invite criticism, and so I
Mhm.
want that space to be just for conversations. Whatever's on your mind, bring it, anything, literally anything, I promise. So yeah, I will give you the link to that as well. I'm of course on YouTube at Child Free with Mimi. I technically created an Instagram account, but it.
We're gonna get into it because look, after this, there will be more eyes. We hope on not only watching your journey, but allowing that. the seed of liberation, that is what we're planting today. That whatever it looks like for you, it is time to center yourself, Black women. As we've said, Alicia Renese has said, baby, if you need to write yourself a permission slip,
I love that.
let's do that during today's conversation. It is time to give ourselves the right and permission to center what is important to me, and not what it is in relationship to a partner, to others' expectations, including our parents and other well-meaning influencers in our lives. And so, I the child free is not just a distancing yourself from children.
Right.
Is that's what I heard when you made your brand shift announcement. So let's break it down. What is transformative about the child free mindset?
Yeah. So for me, it really did come down to I saw I saw all that comes along with raising children, and I knew that I didn't want to take that on for myself. So that's where my decision to be child free came from. But as far as like my brand, it's more of focusing on the freedom from expectations. And I think that's a huge thing because we can start to feel obligated to do certain things. And of course, when it comes to having children, you don't feel obligated necessarily, but you can feel like you're not, what are you doing? Right? Like everyone else is going down this path and you're going the opposite direction. So yeah, for me, it really comes down to the freedom that comes with deciding this is my path and going on it. Like that's just what it is. Being happy and joyful about it, not feeling, insecure and doubtful or like, what are they going to think of me? So yeah, that's what being child free is for me. It's making my own way and going for it.
So I'm going to ask Mimi about her journey, but y'all know on our channel this is a conversation not only between Mimi and myself, but that between those who are in the chat and questions that you might have about what does this journey look like, because as you can tell, Mimi and I are at two different points. It's why I talked about, from Gen X to Gen Z millennial on the thumbnail. Is this the concept of putting yourself first? I think is coming up earlier and earlier in women's lives. And I am so proud of that. Um, so yeah, so put your comments, put your questions in the chat, but Mimi, talk about your path. I mean, because like, are you into blowing up social norms? Like, in like were you never on the path that is traditional of um, expectations for a girl to a woman?
I definitely wouldn't say that I was never on it. I was. It's funny. I mentioned this on a live I did with Marissa just last week. Like, I had a name picked out for the daughter that I might have. Like, and this was when I was in like, you know, was it high school? Yeah, high school. So like, it was just not necessarily that I wanted a child, but that was just what I thought was gonna happen, right? So I'm like, well, since I'm gonna have them anyway, she gonna have a cute name. So I think, yeah. So for me, it was kind of just the expectation that that's just how it goes. And to be honest, I didn't contemplate a different path until actually my friend from high school, his mom, when I tell you that woman has always been like feminist to the extreme. She was like, there is no benefit to marriage for women. It's a scam. And when I remember specifically, we were in high school, or was it maybe I was 18 or 19. We had this conversation and me and him were like, it doesn't have to be like that. If you're with the right person, you can, agree on how things are going to go. And she was just firmly, absolutely not. And so I think honestly, she might be the first example I had of someone rejecting it all. She had been married and she had him, of course. So she knew
Mm-hmm.
from her own experience and that colored her view. But
Yeah.
Yeah, even though I was like, she's not right. You can't say there's no benefit at the time. Now I look back and I'm like, wow. Not that I think there's no benefit. I think if you're with the right person, of course there is, but who is the right person? How do you know it's the right person? I think you find out if they turn out to be the wrong person, then you're like, oh, I guess they weren't it. So anyway, I digress. What was I saying? So yeah, I think she planted the seed. And then what happened? Living life, I guess. So I bought my house and I realized nothing in this world is cheap. Furniture is expensive. I didn't know that. I saw,
Those shorts where the people step out of their apartment and the dollar signs, baby. I was just like, that's my whole life. No, I don't want that no more.
yes, and that's what really I think sent me over. I realized how expensive it is to live and just support yourself. And then I was like, listen, if it's more than one of us, I don't know. And yeah, I think that's what it was. Reality hit me real quick. I mean, yeah. And then also I came across a YouTube channel. It's called Bourbon Bougie, and she puts out a lot of woman-centered content. She is a married woman with children, but I'm pretty sure she has identified herself as a feminist, like in the literal sense of the word, because it has been taken and people have changed
Oh
the
yeah,
meaning and all
twisted.
that.
Yep.
Right. And so following her content, and to be honest, it was like a lot of the not so good stories that she was sharing, and she was warning women what to look out for and stuff like that. And I was like, now listen, this is way too common.
I never thought I would have an opportunity to mention the TikTok 50 episode Who the Fuck Did I Marry?
I've been hearing about that. It
I was
sounds
like, I
crazy.
didn't watch it, but I mean, it's what I feel like is we have started to ignore our knowing about ourselves and ignoring red flags. But sometimes it takes someone, and because it wasn't that just that she was ignoring it, but I was like, where are your people? Where are your people? Where are the disruptors in that you have centered in your life to challenge you? That's what a real friend does. If somebody sees you going down a path, do you have someone in your life that will call you on your stuff? If you don't, you need one. You need someone that helps you to challenge the reality that you have cushioned around your life. So, all right, so your high school, you've been given the beautiful seed of it could be different. Where do we go with Mimi of college or Mimi of career where you're beginning to say, yeah, but no.
That's so funny that you asked that. I guess so. Immediately after I graduated high school, I joined the military, and I was looking around me, and I was like, "This is what people are checking for." Especially they have people say, "I love a man in uniform" and all this, and then I saw what the men in uniform were doing, and I was like,
Baby.
"Okay." So for me, I realized that it was really nothing to aspire to, right? Like that's not
Mm.
to say I don't value solid, good relationships, marriages, and things like that, but I don't idolize them. Because I think when I was younger, I did because it's all over TV, right? It's the
Yeah.
expectation. That's how you win in life. And depending on how you grew up, whether you come from a religious background as a woman, that you can be told that's your value in life. And so yeah, as I got into the world and saw that it wasn't it, I think that freed me to be like, okay, clearly what society has going on, it, it's not matching what they're portraying. And so I realized like I have to make the decisions for myself. And it comes down to I'm the one that has to live this life, right? Like I'm the one who has to take care of the kids. Yeah. So yeah.
I, I'm putting up these comments because Tasha Jarvis just went I'm telling y'all. I
Yes.
mean, what I feel like, it's always, it feels like the, what do you call that? The goal line keeps getting moved. So,
Yeah.
when you graduate from high school, it's, where are you going to college? Well, some people go into the service, some people don't. I mean, like, there are multiple paths to joy, to success, and societal pressures, I mean, are there to say, hey, these are things that are available. These are suggestions, but I think we buy it hook, line, and sinker. When Stephanie Perry talks about Black excellence, like, we know what that looks like. I mean, it has a price tag. It has a distinctive look and feel, and either you have it or you don't. And when we confine ourselves, then I think we miss the opportunity of what's possible. So I agree.
Yeah.
You know, hmm. Do you think that it is easier when you are younger, or as you're listening, for young people to say, nah, I'm going to choose a different path?
To be honest, I would say yes. And I don't think it's necessarily to do with age, but I think the time that we're living in, right? Because I think if just 20 years ago you tried to go a separate route, everybody was labeling you as crazy. Like it just didn't make sense. Whereas
Yep.
today, sure, there are those people who have those opinions, but there is also supportive community to be found, right? There is understanding more than there was before because I think we've seen the other side of it. Like we've seen how it can go if you just take that path that you are fed, right?
Mhm.
And sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't. And so I think now when you say something like, yeah, I don't want to have children, people look at it and they're like, yeah, girl, with this economy, like with, even parents, even moms are like, I totally understand because it's a lot, right? Because it's a heavy responsibility. So I think it's not necessarily because of age, but I think because of the times that we're living in. Yes, if you're a young person right now, if you're, I don't know, say 20 years old, then you see more examples of different avenues as opposed to the one path, and then you are the odd one out if you take another one.
I, it gives me hope. Those of us who are, we've done the married, kids, house, advanced degree, high paying jobs, and we're like, is this what they wanted? Is this what they were selling? Is this really what they were selling? Yes, there are a lot of benefits. There are a lot of joys, because it was what I knew I wanted to do. But if I had seen, um, and had listened to myself, so I'm going to ask you about your knowing. So, like, when you're saying this is the normal path, you got somebody saying, choose your own path. How did you begin to allow the resonation of, this is what feels right to me when you're making that choice? How were you listening to that? How did you begin to center your own selfish inner voice?
That's a good question. Because for the longest time I didn't listen to my inner voice. But I think this one, it was an easier decision for me to make because like I said, I would have to live with the consequences of whatever decision I made. And because I understood how high that price was, it was a no-brainer for me. There was no what are they gonna think? Like, sure, I'm sure I might wonder, like, what are people gonna say? But at the end of the day, I'm not gonna have a baby to avoid what they're gonna say. And so I
Mhm.
think it's actually trickled down into other areas of my life. Like making this decision has empowered me to be more assertive in other areas, right? And speak up for myself
Mm.
and not do something if I don't want to do it, as opposed to let me just do this because I don't want to offend them. I don't want them to take this personally. Like now I can say no to other things. So it's kind of funny how this bigger decision um made it easier for me to say no and speak up in smaller decisions because you would think it's the other way around.
Yeah, well, I mean, because once you're on the freedom path, but I don't want to touch that just yet. I want to get there. But I'm telling you, when you realize you have a choice, you are going to be confronted. And like Anita's saying, religion is coming with its own package of be fruitful and multiply. You know, that there is the sanctity of marriage and of family. But when you kind of say, that's a pressure I don't need, or that is something that either that is not what I want to center at this time in my life. If it
Right.
comes to me, then it is meant for me, but I'm not
Exactly.
choosing that path. I, I was let's see. So we don't retire, we ascend is Sabangale. I've already told her y'all need to get together because y'all preaching the same message.
Listen, I would love that. I love her content. It's inspiring. And listen, I'm trying to live my best retired life, okay? And she's setting me on that path now. I know it's early, but I'm ready because of her.
Fact. So I mean, just so we're reading. You know, if you have folks that are really supportive in your circle, not just people who are saying, I'm choosing a different path, and I can give you the benefit of my experience. Like, you also kind of need somebody that's cheering for you in your circle. Um, and so where have you been able to bring that in as you have settled into some of the decisions for how, you're lining your life up?
Let me think. So I have one really good friend who she completely understands because we share the same struggle. We commiserate sometimes about what life is. And so, like, we talk about how sometimes it feels like you don't have enough energy in the day after you work this shift, or like the money. How are you going? If it takes this much to support you, how are you gonna pay for you and another person? So with her, she's not even like she hasn't decided to be child free, but there's an understanding and there's a support there, right? Like I don't have to explain my choice to her. I don't have to defend it. And so yeah, like you said, that makes a really big difference because I think sometimes you can feel crazy if you're the only one the only one in your circle or sphere of influence thinking this way. But to that point, I will say I do think social media is very valuable in that regard because if you don't have someone to be like, I understand, I see where you're coming from, I love that, then there are people on the internet talking about it,
Oh, they
sharing their
will come
experiences.
for you.
They will.
How do
They
you
they
have a
will.
right to?
They will. That too.
I went looking for this content on the internet and began to see other Black women say, you got choices out here. Um, and I think I saw one Black male who said, I don't want no kids. But other people I saw say, if you are child free, then you need to leave men alone. Like, okay, so who is policing the space or for how people live their lives? And there were other things that people were bringing forward in this conversation about, being child free. But I think, we have the wider concept of feminism. We have the wider concept of expectations, societal expectations on women. But what does it mean to be Black and making a decision about being child free? Because I think I'm going to tell you from my perspective, we're considered to be highly fertile. We are considered to be, that is our role, is wife and mother. And so when you are saying, I don't center that within the Black community, how is that received, or how do you feel like you are relating to your culture?
That's a good question. Um, how do I feel like I'm relating to my culture? Well, I
And
never
if
thought
it's
about
not,
this. So,
if it's not a thing, if it's not a thing, it's not a thing. You're making a choice. You may be making a choice for yourself. But I mean, I feel like there's a rub there for people of my generation.
yeah, and I think it goes back to the expectation that Black women are the supporters of the whole world, right? Like we got to be
Mm.
superwoman, we got to be taking care of all the people, doing all the things. And so I think culturally, it does make people look twice. Like, what is the point then? Like, if you're not giving your life for other people, then why are you here? I have to say, personally, in my life, I haven't had any experiences where anyone said that to me. But yeah, and I think also when you think about culturally how there's this stigma for Black women specifically, like the baby mama trope, right? I think we
Mm.
have always been the baby mamas. Like I think that term was created for Black women. Sure, there can be other women from other cultures that have babies and maybe they're single mothers, but I feel like that just was made to stick to us. So I think it
Mm.
also, in that regard, I think it challenges that, of course, but it's almost like it people have to come up with something else. They can't just put us into a box. And so I just had an example that fled my mind. So, because I was going somewhere with that. Oh, I lost the example. But anyway, it's like I don't know. It's like if I can't label you this way for this thing, then what do I do with you? So it makes people have questions. Yeah.
Yeah. And the only one that can answer it is you. The only
Yeah.
one that should be able to answer that is you. I remember before getting involved with the birth world, you know, it was you get married and like on your honeymoon, people are asking, when are you having your first baby? And you have your first baby. And I, as a doula, I have been in the room. People have just birthed a baby not even 1 hour old, and people are saying, well, the next one,
Mm.
get your expectations off of me. It really, I love what Marilyn's saying. It really is your decision whether it's child free or taking those things, those expectations off your plate and really seeing, well, what do I want to put there? So as you are saying that, if you're saying I can center myself, my needs, the reality I want to create for myself, you've got this blank slate, this empty plate. How do you start to bring meaning, to how you nourish the life um, that you want to live?
That is a good question. I also kind of got stuck on what you were saying because, like, I felt like crying when you said that. Like, women will just deliver a baby, and the baby is not even an hour old, and they're being asked, "When are you going to have another?" And I feel like that is a representation of the wider context of what we're talking about how there's this defined path, right? You grow up, you graduate high school, you go to college, you get a good job, you get married, you have the kid, and then or I guess you get the house before the kid, whatever, right? And then you have another kid. And it's just like, it saddens me because I feel like it goes back to who said it? I think was it Tasha? I don't want to give oh, I think Anita. But they were talking about how somebody said it has to do with peer pressure, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I completely agree with that because people are asking you these questions and there's a wrong answer. Let's just say that, right? Because like when people ask, say, if you want to have children, you can say yes or you can say no. If you say yes, then it's accepted. If you say no, then it's, well, why don't you want to have children? And then it's like you almost have to defend or explain yourself. And so it frustrates me because a lot of women learn later, right? After they've done all the things, they've gotten married, they've had the kids, and they're still not satisfied. And they've spent years of their lives chasing this thing. And they are the only ones who have to live with the consequences. I think that's why it just upset me so bad. But yeah,
I,
that's
I I feel like Dr. Linda and I are literally doing a virtual high five with you on what you just unpacked for us. But I put Elle's comment up there. She said no one has ever attempted, but that would be a bad idea on their part. So you have to create a boundary is what I feel like she's saying. You do have to create that protective boundary, even with people who love you, who may have
yeah.
birthed you, who raised you and shared the initial core values that you grew up with. To say, I appreciate your opinion, but I'm going to center what is good for me and my life. So I just it's new territory. Y'all know, I was shamed on shamed on shame. I did not get introduced to bell hooks until we lost bell hooks. But it has her books have opened to me some of the content I feel like we're approaching today, where we're saying, what does it mean? What does it mean when I question the establishment, when I question the path that gets laid in front of me for either success or what how I should be satisfied. So this is where you started. The I won't say the Childfree is where you started, but when you're on your freedom path, how is it continuing to open those new opportunities?
I think, and I almost hesitate to say this because I never want to seem like I'm saying this can't be true for someone else. But for me, being child free, I think the world is open to me, right? Like when you're child free and you're debt free, you're unstoppable. What's holding you back? And that's where I am right now. Like I honestly feel like I can do whatever because there's nothing hanging over my head. No extra responsibilities. It's really just what I want for my life. So I
Yeah,
think to answer your question, I feel like everything's open. I ripped off.
because the right now, Sam from Black Women Build Wealth, she was just like, once I started challenging the norms, then I'm bringing into my life at the timing that's right for me the things that are good for me. So, I mean, I'm not here to fulfill anyone else's. And as a mother, even with my best intentions, I started checking myself because I feel like maybe some of the guidance that I've given my children is don't choose choose to walk past some of the pitfalls that I fell into without saying, first, what do you want to center in your life and how can I support that?
I feel like that's completely natural and normal too. I mean, I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, but I think most mothers don't want their children to make the same mistake. I can say that for my mom. Like she was very much, y'all ain't about to make this mistake. So I think that comes from a really good place. But I like that you are self-aware and you realize that maybe you should see what they want to do. Cause I never thought about that. Like that actually is important. That is a great mindset shift that I'm sure your children appreciate as well. So
It's because I'm in a process of questioning the things around me, including how am I parenting? How am I how am I doing the same thing that I was trying to avoid that I felt, sometimes like my folks, kind of maybe that were unsaid that I felt like I needed to fulfill to honor their sacrifice, to honor some unspoken thing that would bring them joy, or happiness or fulfillment or whatever. And when you do that, it takes so much longer. And I'm talking about 50 years of, girl, where are you? Have you lost yourself? And so I feel like today's conversation is about, create the breadcrumbs that bring you back to you,
Yeah.
that help you to stand up parts of yourself that you probably have shh, quieted, ignored, so that you can fit in, or achieve whatever it is that society is saying will bring you good things. Because this is, I think, because we're having disruptive conversations, okay, that we're trying to blow up these ideals. How do you reach back to young people, whether on whatever your social media channel, network of influence? How are you seeding into the next generation to say it's okay? Because the earlier you get this message, as your life is showing, the earlier you start questioning things.
Absolutely. And it's funny because I've thought of this subject so many times, especially when we talk about, for quite a few of us, how hard of a time middle school specifically was for us as girls, and like all of the pressures, all of the expectations and not fitting into it. And so looking back on that, I always wonder, like, what can I do to help them along? And for like even until now, my perspective has pretty much been, I know for me, all I wanted back then was to fit in and be liked and accepted. And so even if I had people encouraging me, like complimenting me, support, telling me how valuable I was, if I wasn't hearing it or seeing it from the people, the kids that I was in school with, then I wasn't believing it. And so I say that because for me, what I do currently, if I ever see a young girl, is I have to find something to compliment her on, because I know that for a lot of us, it just, we feel like we don't fit. And I don't know, to see them, the joy, I guess I feel like I'm trying to be what I think I needed back then, but
Mhm.
even then realizing that that might not do a whole lot. So for now, I'm focusing on creating this platform and starting these conversations so that I hope ultimately it can be the norm for women to embrace joy in our lives, whether that means not having children or not, embracing joy, right? Designing a life that feels good for you because you made the choice and not because it's what's expected of you. And so my hope is, I mean, of course, my target audience isn't girls, like kids, but I would hope that it would be like a, ew, I hate to say trickle down effect because somebody ruined that term, but
Maybe that was
you
if
know
you
what
know,
I
you
mean.
know. It didn't work for that, and it has to happen with intention. And I think that's what not being able to use that term does. But I can tell you there's a wave of influence that can come when it's more visible, when you can hear more voices saying it, for sure.
Yes, and that's my whole mission at this point, right? Because I think it's the exact same thing with Exodus Summit for me. Seeing Black women doing the things, living the life that I desire for myself, made me realize that it is so possible, right? When you see different people from different backgrounds, from different circumstances, all doing it, then you're like, okay, I can. And so for me, I just want to contribute another voice to the conversation, right? Because I am not the first person to talk about being child free, thankfully, right? But I think the more people you see, the more possibilities you have of them being someone who you can identify with, I think. And so just putting myself out there for whoever might come across me and then, consume some of my content or see some of the conversations, that is enough for me. And so it goes back to how I said Bourbon Bougie, how she was sharing these stories, and that really helped me to become clear on what I want and what I don't want for myself. I don't know. I feel like maybe I'll be that for somebody else, even if it's just one person. So we'll see what happens.
Well, I'm telling you right now, just the conversation that you had to say, not just not having children, but not centering, not allowing that to to be your defining. It doesn't have to be. If that is the path that you need toward freedom, that does not have to be your center. You can still love, support if you have children, but then there you can transition. Life is always about that transition, and what does it look like when not just you need to stop centering them, but what if they don't need you as much? There is a real shift happening in my life when I'm not a part of the group who is in the know about what's happening with my our young people.
Yeah.
That they're making decisions in their life. How do I orient to myself and give myself permission to say, okay, so you have done these things, you have experienced them, you've supported the dreams that you've had along the way. Where are you?
Yeah.
Where are you? So I just I'm celebrating Childfree with Mimi. I'm celebrating the community that she has opened up on Facebook. I did not know about that. Where without judgment, people can come and talk through what does that look like for the priorities that you have for yourself. Any other parts of this discussion you'd like for us to bring forward or massage in a supportive community during today?
I would say while Child Free with Mimi is my channel, I hope that it doesn't just become a conversation about being child free. Like when I think about that community, I don't want us to be in there just talking about being child free. I want us to be women just talking. And I think ultimately it would be great if there was, I don't know, it just feels like to have to label yourself as the, I don't know how to explain it. So essentially what I'm trying to say is I don't want it to be, I don't want it to be the focus. I want the focus to be living your life, enjoying your life. And so, actually, funny enough, I just decided I want to rename that community. Like yesterday, I was like, I'm going to rename it to Just Be with Mimi. And that's what it's going to be. Because I don't want it to come across as some like, and this is going to sound bad, but like, I don't want it to come across as a support group. Like, like we're coming into this circle. Like, I, it's hard to describe. I just want it to be a conversation
Yeah.
and not centering being child free or having children, just talking. So
Hmm.
that was a real roundabout way to say that. But yes, I don't want you to think if you're hearing this that the community is just to talk about child free things. It's not. It's to talk about anything, but to do it freely and openly.
Yeah. Tasha Journey says she gets you, girl. She gets
Okay,
you.
good. I was
She
like,
gets
I don't know
you.
what.
And you're right. I mean, that being able to say this is child free, centers the conversation, but it shouldn't be the center of why you are supporting each other, because I really feel like it's for me. I keep saying one decision is a domino of a thought process. How I'm opening myself up to more possibilities and to question expectations and other social pressures, internal pressure that I might feel to fulfill, for my life to be a fulfillment of someone else's ideal. And so, yeah, Nicole LaShawn, this is our no limits. This is definitely a
Yes.
conversation about not limiting yourself. And it's such a blessing to have someone like Mimi, like on her channel talking about the stuff. And I'd reach out and say, girl, you touched me too. Initially, I didn't think about, I was just logging on to support. And look what I took from that one conversation. I'm hoping the same happens for you, that maybe you came in because you saw how to be selfish, how to put yourself first as an attraction. But I'm hoping that this conversation really does open you up to how do you put a diverse group of people as part of your inner circle of influence, that people will help you stay true to what you feel like is your truth, and that community continues to be an important part of that process of connecting with like-minded people who are also on a growth path, that are sharing where they're growing, and that you're able to consider alternative paths, new paths, path that you would have never considered if you hadn't connected intentionally.
Yes.
Just there's so many good comments, so many good comments. Oh, let's see. Yeah. You want to identify with something big, larger? Yes, yes, yes. Dr. Linda, you are not defined by the fact that you want kids or not. Or not. It's about living life to the fullest, and I love
Yes,
it.
and amen.
Yes, yes, and amen. And Nicole LaShawn is just giving us all the comments
The
today.
gems, they are coming.
We have choice, we have options. Reclaim your power. That's really what I feel like we're tapping into. And Marilyn is always reminding us, please like, share, and subscribe to Mimi's channel as well as to H&D Abroad. Mimi is child free with Mimi. Say where we can find child free with Mimi in all the places.
You can find it on YouTube and my community. Okay, well, the community, I told you I'm changing the name. I'm about to change it tonight. It's gonna be Just Be with Mimi. So by the time you look it up, if you're interested, search for Just Be with Mimi or go to the description of my last video. It's in there. And yeah, that's those are the only places I really truly am for real.
Very good. Very good. Stay connected. Get into your sisterhood circles, because I'm telling you, my circle of friends continues to give and give and give to my process. And I hope that we are giving to your process as well. Thank you to all of our, especially our Exodus Summit sisters who have joined, and find a way to be a disruptor, and give a little bit of that disruptive mentality to a young person that you casually come in contact with, or that you are in a circle of influence with. Thank you all so much for the positivity in the chat, and we will see you next time.
Thanks, ladies.
Bye for
Bye.
now.